So Keir Starmer is about to fully unveil the New Deal. He's talking about a strong package. He could be quasi-Quateng, couldn't he? We gather today not to bury Brexit, but to gut it. And if the stench of betrayal wafts through the corridors of Lancaster House like a warm haddock in a sunbeam, then I suppose you'll forgive me if I reach for my rhetorical icebox. Sir Keir Starmer, the so-called pragmatic Prime Minister, has this week netted himself a fresh agreement with the European Union, and what a catch it is, a scaly, slithering, oddly translucent deal that flaps around at the bottom of the boat, gasping for clarity. The delegations took their place on either side of the aisle like territorial trout defending their spawning beds, either side of a table. But then, in a rare moment of piscatory pageantry, David Lammy and Marcos Sefcovic swapped seats as if to say, we're all swimming in the same tank now, chum. And behind the scenes, negotiators reportedly survived on Nando's, which is tragically poultry rather than pollock, but we must let that one slip through the net. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves sat beside Nick Thomas Simmons, who appeared to be operating on the energy levels of a dozing carp in midwinter. Well, firstly, a 12-year agreement allowing EU vessels back into British waters, an arrangement the Prime Minister is already describing as sustainable. Sustainable for whom, one might ask. Scottish trawlermen say it's a disaster. Salmon Scotland, a charmingly petrophilous lot, would say it's a breakthrough. Therein lies the paradox. One man's overfished zone is another man's aquacultural export miracle. I remember when the Better Off Out campaign asked me to do a little animated film about a fisherman who was going to be so much fated by Brexit. I did. He wasn't. In return, we've secured reductions in sanitary and phytosanitary checks, or, for the less anorak inclined, the red tape around fish fingers, Cumberland sausages and the noble black pudding. As Jonathan Reynolds explained with the solemnity of a man who's recently failed to export a burger, there's no real reason British sausages shouldn't be sold in the EU, except, of course, for the small matter of not having a trade deal that worked. So, let's not pretend this is some mighty marlin of a treaty. No, it's a sprat to catch a mackerel. It swims in the shallows, promising depth, but delivering sludge. It is a deal only a grey mullet could love, slow-moving, bottom-feeding and perpetually surprised by reality. We're told Brexit would mean taking back control, but it turns out control is a slippery eel. And as soon as we've grasped it, it squirms away into the regulatory reeds of Brussels. What Starmer has done is quietly reel us back towards the shoals we once left without saying so aloud. He's aligned us with EU food standards, sneaking in a youth mobility scheme, with a time limit naturally, and even bringing back pet passports for those who like their dogs on holiday in Biarritz. Reform UK are already howling like seals in mating season, crying betrayal. And meanwhile, the Lib Dems, those perennially damp centrists, have called it a positive first step. I agree with the Lib Dems, which, as any marine biologist will tell you, is the sort of thing you say before falling into a rock pool. The Scottish Government claims it wasn't consulted on the fisheries deal, a familiar tune. The herring lords of Holyrood are sulking in their kelp beds, angry at being left out, while Westminster carved up the quotas like Poseidon slicing a kipper. The kelpies won't be pleased. But the real twist is that Starmer doesn't want this deal to look big. He's banking on voter exhaustion, Brexit fatigue. He's quietly hoping we'll look the other way, and perhaps we will. Perhaps distracted by e-gate access or youth internships in Copenhagen, and not noticed that slowly but surely, we're returning to that very embrace we flounced out of in 2016. We can only hope. So, what are we to make of this echitheric intrigue? Starmer is not so much reversing Brexit as conducting a kind of political trawl back. He's dredging the waters of international diplomacy, hoping to scoop up a few concessions while avoiding the accusation of rejoinery. It's Brexit, but scuffed. A kind of turbot neutrality, a softly poached alignment, the return of the Codfather 3. Yet for all his quiet manoeuvring, one suspects the British public may eventually notice that they've been sold the same fish twice, once raw and nationalistic, now grilled and pragmatic. This may be Starmer's most periculous political moment yet. He's walking the plank with a filleting knife in one hand and a freshly signed treaty in the other, and the sea beneath him is full of sharks. Or possibly Nigel Farage with a harpoon and a bottle of Tabasco. The deal is scaly, slippery, politically enbrined. The EU got the better fillet. The UK, it's got the head and the tail, and we're told to call it progress. So someone should fetch a glass of white wine and a smoked mackerel, because some of us need to align our standards and to celebrate the return of the UK to Europe, because I think this is the first slippery step, the first sliding motion, the first moment, then we can swim back in the same waters together. But poor fishermen, they don't really get a very good deal, do they? They were sold Brexit on the principle that this would give them better rights. They found they haven't got them, and now they're completely dumped, flushed down the down the marine lavatory of life.